Okay, let's talk about pricing. It's got to be one of the most critical, high stakes decisions any business can make, right? Especially if you're a small or medium sized company. I mean, if you get it wrong, you're either leaving a ton of money on the table, or even worse, you're scaring away your customers. But if you get it right, well, that is the path to real sustainable growth. So I've got a direct question for you. Is your current pricing strategy leaving money on the table? It's a tough one to ask ourselves, I know, but it's the exact question we're going to answer today. See, so many businesses, without even realizing it, are just drastically undervaluing what they offer. So let's figure out how to fix that. And here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the common pricing traps that everyone falls into. Then we'll introduce this idea of value-based pricing, and I'll show you it in action with a really cool example. After that, we'll get practical with a 5-step plan you can actually use, tackle that big old question about competitors, and then wrap it all up. All right, so let's start with the big mistakes. Before we can even think about building a better pricing strategy, we have to understand exactly why the most common methods just don't work. You know, most companies default to one of two methods. First, there's cost-plus pricing. This is a totally internal-looking process. You just figure out your costs, you slap on a markup, and boom, that's your price. Then you've got competitor-based pricing, where you're just peeking over your rival's shoulder and trying to set your price somewhere close to theirs. Now, both of these seem simple, right? But they are deeply flawed. Let's really zero in on competitor-based pricing because it's so common and honestly, it's so dangerous. I mean, think about it. You're basically assuming your competitors have some genius pricing strategy, which is a huge, huge gamble. This is what starts those brutal price wars that just destroy everybody's profits. And maybe worst of all, it tells the market you're just another Me Too product, and that forces you to totally undervalue everything that actually makes you unique. So if those old methods are broken, what's the answer? Well, this brings us to the hero of our story, a much, much smarter approach called value-based pricing. So what is it exactly? Well, value-based pricing is a complete mindset shift. It's the strategy of setting a price based on the perceived value of your product to the customer. It's not about your costs, it's not about your competitors, it's all about the value you create for someone else. This is the absolute core of the whole thing. You have to stop asking, how much did this cost me to make? And instead you start asking, how much is this worth to the person buying it? I'm telling you, that single question changes everything about how you approach your business. Now, I get it. Value can feel a little abstract, a little fuzzy. So let's make it super concrete with a simple but really powerful example I'm calling the 1 million pound gadget. Okay, imagine your company invents a new gadget. It's a total breakthrough. For your business customers, using this one little gadget saves them a massive 1 million pounds in fuel costs every single year. That number, 1 million pounds, that is the value you've created for them. Okay, so how do you price it? Well, check out this comparison. The old cost-plus method would say, well, it costs us 900 pounds to make, so let's add a 50% markup. Your price? A measly 1,350 pounds. Now, look at the value-based approach. The gadget creates 1 million pounds in value. So you decide to capture a fair piece of that, let's say 25%. Your price is now 250,000 pounds. And get this, your customer still gets $750,000 in net savings. That's a fantastic deal for them, and you've priced your product based on its true impact. So the crucial takeaway here is this. Value-based pricing lets you price based on the actual, real-world economic impact you deliver. You stop anchoring yourself to some arbitrary production cost, and you start capturing a fair share of the immense value you create. Plus, this whole calculation becomes an incredibly powerful sales tool to justify that price. That all sounds pretty great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? How do you put it into practice? Okay, let's break it down into an actionable 5-step plan. So here are the 5 key steps. Number 1, you've got to understand your customer's perspective. 2, identify their alternatives. 3 is crucial. Quantify the value you deliver. 4, determine your share of that value. And finally, number 5, you have to test and refine your pricing. Let's dig into a couple of these a little more. Step 1 is the absolute foundation of all of this. And you have to go deep here. It's not just about the features on the box. You've got to ask yourself, what problem are we really solving? How much time or money does that problem cost our customer? And what about the emotional benefits? Are we reducing frustration? Are we signaling status? You have to be able to quantify this value to price against it. Okay, now let's jump to step 4, determining your share. You don't take all the value, of course. That wouldn't work. The customer needs a really compelling reason to buy. A pretty common practice is for the business to capture somewhere around 15 to 25% of the total value created. This means the customer keeps the other 75 to 85% as their net benefit. It's a true win-win situation. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, this is great, but what about my competitors? I can't just ignore them. And you know what? You're absolutely right. So how do you handle the competition? Well, it's all about playing chess, not checkers. Value-based pricing doesn't mean you're operating in a vacuum. Not at all. It just means you use competitor information strategically. You look at their pricing to understand the market range, but you don't blindly copy it. Instead, you use that information to shout about what makes you different and better. You use it to justify why you might charge a premium, because you offer superior value. So when you start to put all these pieces together, it becomes incredibly clear why this approach really is the smartest path to long-term, sustainable growth. I mean, just look at the difference here. Cost-plus pricing puts this artificial cap on your profitability. Competitor-based pricing, that just drags you into a race to the bottom. But value-based pricing, it aligns your price directly with the value you create, and that unlocks a much, much higher potential for profitability. Ultimately, this is what it all boils down to. Your price should be a reflection of your true worth. It shouldn't be dictated by some internal spreadsheet, and it definitely shouldn't be dictated by a competitor who might not even know what they're doing. Your price is a statement of your value. So let's end right where we began, with a direct challenge. Are you using value-based pricing? Because if the answer is no, I can almost guarantee you are leaving money on the table. It is time to start claiming the value you've worked so incredibly hard to create.